so let's go over the materials we're going to need. Okay, so first off, we've got the outside of it. This stuff is called jute. I picked it up from a craft store called Michael's here in Canada. And it kind of just comes in rolls like this. So I got 4 of those. Last time when I made this hat, I used 3, and you can see it kind of ran out of material near the top. It still looked fine and worked. But this time we're going to make sure that we have, complete coverage. So for the covering that you see on the outside here, it's used just with this white tape, grip tape, cloth tape, hockey tape, something like that. Then for the base on it, that everything is mostly made out of, this is the puzzle mat camp pad. That's going to be used on the outer surface to give it a bit more give. We got a type of epoxy here, or some kind of glue that is going to last over time. Some type of cutting material tool, so like a knife, X-Acto knife, or a scissors, pair of scissors would do. And for the inside, you can see I kind of wrapped it. A lot of that is kind of falling apart here now after, nearly 2 years. And that's just going to be for wrapping around and just kind of holding things together, making it look a little bit prettier. Okay, so those are the materials. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out just the bottom part of the hat here. So where you can kind of see this wheel structure going around, that is 2 layers of puzzle mat foam. So we're going to cut the outside diameter first, and then afterwards we're going to cut out the inside diameter, get it shaped to fit your head, and then we're going to cut out the little spokes afterwards. Took the knife, cut around the edge of the plate while I was sitting on top of the puzzle mat, and now I have 2 exact pieces that fit perfectly aligned with each other. Okay. Now what I have to do is figure out what size I need this to fit on my head. Okay, and that's what you're going to have to do. What I've done is I found a little plate that fits on close to around the inside diameter of it. It's better to start with smaller and then kind of cut it to the point where it feels comfortable. Keep in mind your head's not going to be a perfect circle, so you're probably going to want a little bit of ovality to it. Discs right now, I've got the one I haven't cut yet, and the one I've cut to the shape of my head. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take my marker, whatever I have, that will mark the foam, and I'm just going to kind of trace that around. Okay, and that will lead me to something that's fairly similar in shape to the other one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find, so the thickness of this width here. What I'm trying to do now is I'm going to be basically splitting this into thirds, okay? And I'm just going to draw circles that are in third sections. Now what I need to do is I'm going to start drawing. So I need to have 8 spokes all the way across. So basically going to be drawing these little holes. Okay, and there we can see there, 16 sections, looking familiar. Now, what I recommend you do is you just mark off which sections you're going to be cutting out, so there's no confusion. You don't accidentally start cutting out more than you should. So, there you are. Now, going to take a handy dandy knife, and we're going to start cutting that now. So now that we have both of the wheels and spokes done, one of them is going to be used to make the base, and the base is what this rim with the camp pad, soft camp pad, is going to be attached to. Okay, so now I've got my little strip of camp pad cut to shape. You can see that's going to fit around the bottom there perfectly around that. That's the edge that's going to be hitting people. So that's pretty soft, pretty forgiving. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to tape around the bottom edge there just to kind of hold that on, and then I'm going to start with the hockey tape. Okay, so for this section, you're going to want to get comfortable because you're just going to be sitting here. You're going to be doing a lot of taping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the four corners, northeast, southwest, compass points there, just to make sure that when I'm wrapping all the way around, that I don't end up with this wave effect. Because if you do that all the way around, when you get to the final little bit here, you'll have a really big gap and you're trying to squish down and it'll seem like you have excessive amounts of the camp pad. So much better to strap them down in 4 spots at the beginning so that you don't run into that problem. So now what we're going to do, we're going to do the full out wrap. Now the difficult parts, you have to respect these holes. Okay, they need to be able to be free. So when we're doing our wrapping, whenever you come to a spoke, be wrapping away all the way around it as we have our 4 quadrants here. Now when you actually get to the holes here, you're going to cut an excessive length of tape and you're just going to tape up and around and through the gap. And you're going to just be careful with the tape, try not to get it stuck to itself, and all the way around to get back onto, solid ground here, and then you'll start with a new section of tape. And the first one you're going to do, you're going to have to try and play by ear just to see how long it's going to need to wrap all the way around. Now, when you're doing the taping here, you want to try and space it so that you're not bridging this gap here. So as soon as you tape, you just want it just on the edge of the tape. So it'll be about 3 strips of tape going along here. And on your last one here, this is where you're going to have it go extra long. And then you're going to cut it. So let's see how well this is going to work. So did I mention this hat is a little on the tedious side? Because it definitely is. So be prepared for excessive amounts of finicky taping. Okay, now here's the part. You have to be extra careful. So now, thread that through here. Definitely not for the impatient. Okay, so as you can see, right here, that's in. Got that wrapped around there. And the important part is to make sure you have your tape always overlapping, especially at the edge of the hat. Okay, because that's where it's going to be hitting. That's where you want to make sure it's covered. Okay, right there. So you can see here, there is 1/8 of it done. So you are just done there. There you go. So approximately a yard is enough to get you through one gap. Okay, and that's, see from the outside, just see continuous kind of form there. Yeah, so we're just gonna keep going. Base done. Okay, so next thing we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing the top cone section. I've drawn out 2 large circles on this hat because I'm not going to sit down and try and calculate exactly what diameter I need and what slice I need to take out of it to get the exact same one I currently have. Instead, we're going to do it just by, by feel, by winging it here. So the diameter that I have started out with here, though, I'm going pretty much full size of the sheet, looking at around 21-inch diameter for the larger circle. The smaller circle, which you want to, I just drew a second one for reference in case I have to, cut the first one and then it's not quite where I wanted to have a reference to kind of guide my my cutting for the next one. But that one's just sitting around 13 inches. So I'm just going to grab myself a knife here. Here we go. Alright, so I got that out. And now I'm just going to cut around and trace that line. Now I'm going to cut a little pie slice down here. So, the basic concept of the hat is you're taking your little pie slice and you're going to be taping that down together. What you do is then you stick this on and you put it where your head is. And if your head is touching on the top of the cone, you know it's not quite right. You need a bit of a gap there. So what we're going to do is cut a little bit more off of that slice. Now that I've got this marked off here, or, taped down here, what I am going to do is I'm just going to hold this down here. I'm going to roughly mark the diameter. I'm going to take some scissors this time, and we're just going to cut. I'm going to cut around, trying to pop that in. That's basically how you're going to do the top section to start. And now we're just going to start to do the taping. For the taping on the hat, that's basically just to cover the foam that's up top here. When I'm doing this, the edge of the tape is going to come all the way around the bottom edge of the hat, just overlapping the corner just a slight amount. It doesn't have to be very much there. This is the final product right now on the top cone taping section. So you can see just overlapping layers of the tape, and on the bottom side just wrapping over the edge just slightly. It doesn't have to be anything too pretty, nothing too perfect, because as you can see, once everything's in, it's going to be set inside the recess of that, and it's going to have the jute taped on the top, the strips across the last stage. So this stage now, we're going to attach the wheel onto the top, and you can see I've already started working on that. So all I'm doing is I'm taking strips of tape, and I'm starting with the section between the spokes to begin with, and I'm just doing 2 strips in there, and what I'm doing is I'm tucking it down inside and under that little section. So I'm poking that with my finger in here just so it's wrapped around on the inside between the top layer where the dome is and the section where the wheel is. Okay, so and then I'm coming up and over, fixing, and then once I get all the way to the other side here, I'm coming in on the spoke on the opposite side. So I started here on this side and I'm going down to the opposite corner there. I'm just going to cut it just slightly past so that I can also stuff this side down and in. Alright, so there you go. One last one on. I'm done on those little between the spokes, and then I'm going to do the spokes. See how it's starting to come to shape? So what this is going to do, this is how it's going to work. So this is simply going to come around here, and we're going to tape just the bottoms onto this section. And it's going to come up and over and around and tape it back down. and we're going to create a weaving pattern on there. You can do whatever kind of weave you want, just as long as you end up covering everything. Okay, so here's the weave. What you start with is you start with just a diamond shape 2 crossing weave, okay? And then what you're just going to do is you're just going to keep doing just a regular kind of grid where you go over, under, opposite, but in a diamond pattern. Then once you're done doing this all the way down to the base, then you're going to keep it kind of loose, okay, so you can still move it around. Then you're going to add the other ones that are going this section, and all you're going to do is go over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. And that's the pattern you're going to have at the end, and we'll end up looking something like this. Now I kept it really loose because I didn't have enough jute last time, but this time I hopefully have enough. The jute gods are hungry. So now I'm almost completed that initial diamond pattern. Now, as you can see, I've got my top piece up here, and what we've kind of got diamonds. You can see let's point at that, the little diamonds here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the other piece, and then you figure out if it's going to be you want it on top or below. And then what you're going to do, so I'm going to put mine on top of the top. So that means I'm going to go in here, out here, in here, out here. I'm going to continue this pattern all the way down until I get to the very bottom. Then you do the same, coming all the way through. And then I move on to my next set of rows with my next one, and I'm going to go, in, out, so on and so forth. And that way you end up having a nice and beautiful weave, better than this one. I found the easiest thing to do was to go all the way across with the diamond pattern, and then starting from, like a middle section or so, weaving through the cross. I still haven't finished taping down the bottom edges yet. I'm kind of holding that back until kind of the last little bit, just so that I can kind of fold in the pattern, adjust it where I need to, and then I'll start taping it down once I've got the last 1 or 2 in at the bottom there. So, as you can see, I've just started doing the taping, just down the sides here, down the bottom. So I'm just taking all the little loose, fibers, weave that I've got here, and I'm putting it in a place where I'm trying to leave a little bit of the jute right at the edge there, just to make sure when I have my glue come down on here that it's going to be connected, sandwiched between this section here, along in here, right there, and where I've got, all the jute coming in there. And that will create a sandwich with the glue or epoxy, or let's call it adhesive. And yeah, so that will make it so that this is going to be really secure once I have that all in there. The tape does help to hold it down, but really what it's there for is just to hold a position while the epoxy is curing. So here's the epoxy stage. So adhesive stage. Just got myself mixed in here. All I'm going to do is apply liberally. All around the edge here. Just make sure it will still fit through. Yes, it will. And you have to do this multiple times and just tie the one cord to another one, because you won't be able to fit it all through initially. So I'm I'm going to do is I'm going to take this in, find a point to start at. And now over here. And just going to tie. Really simple knot. Doesn't have to be anything too special. So I'm going to wrap over top of it. Wrapping over top of it will definitely help stay stable. So one of the most boring parts. Not that this has been exciting at any stage, really. Okay, so I've got, with that one little tube, I've got basically one of the IDs and one of the spokes and another of the IDs. So you can see it takes quite a while to do all of it. I'm going to set this down with a big plate on it. I'm probably just going to wrap around these sections here, here, with just a little bit of tape or something just to kind of squeeze on it while it's drying. And yeah, tomorrow we'll finish up the winding, and this will be done.